this is Ela Jarvis, and this is our fourth video in the beginning watercolor series that I'm teaching here. And the one we're going to do today, the exercise we're going to do today, is we are going to explore all the colors that exist between the three primaries. So you can see I have a red, I have a blue, and I have a yellow. Those are the three primary colors. All the secondary colors, which are purple, green, and orange, are mixed from the three primaries. So this is basically building on what we did previously, where we tested every color in our palette. And, you know, it's easy to get caught up in thinking we need to have lots of pre-mixed colors. But a lot of these colors, as I demonstrated previously, can be mixed. You can mix a lot of these from, even if you just had two reds, one yellow, and two blues. So those two reds would be a warm red, a red that would have a little bit of yellow in it, so it would lean towards orange. It would make good oranges. Or a red that contains some blue, like magenta or alizarin crimson, which would make good purples. And then a blue that leans towards red. So that would lean towards purple. It would make a good purple because purple and blue make red. Red and blue make purple. I can speak English. And then also a greenish blue, which would be that phthalo blue again, which makes a great green. Now, we're only going to use one of each primary. And then we're going to find out what those colors in between really mix. How they really look. So here I used carmine, which is a cool red, and you can see I've got some good purples. I used ultramarine blue, which is that purplish blue, hence why the purples look really good here. Because there's red in ultramarine blue, that means there's some red mixed in with the green that results. And red and green are opposite on the color wheel. Here's a color wheel. They're opposite on the color wheel. So if you mix them together, you get some muddy colors. You get some brownish colors. The result is you get some nice but rather dull greens. They're not brilliant. They're not as brilliant as, say, if I had used phthalo blue, like I demonstrated in my last video. And for whatever reason, it seems like orange is usually pretty easy to mix, even when I have a cool red. Orange never seems to be much of a problem to make, although they will vary. Greens can be a little bit muddy if there's a little bit of red in the yellow or blue, and purples in particular often turn out brown. If you use a red that has yellow, and a lot of reds that look very pure have a little bit of yellow hiding in there, and you can see how these purples are not as brilliant as these purples here. These really look like purple. These look more like brown. So we're going to explore our own version of this. We're going to try it out. I can show you stuff, but it's a whole different experience if you actually do it. By the way, we're not going to do a color wheel. We're going to just do these little dots because trying to get these colors exactly the way you want in this arrangement, I find can be a little bit stressful for students. This is a worthwhile exercise to try. The secret to doing this is, you draw a circle, lay a plate down, draw it in half, then make another line in quarters, perpendicular, and then divide each of those quarters into 3, so you have a total of 12. Then you lay down your primaries. So here's red, then you have 1, 2, 3 purples, which are rather brownish in this case. Then you lay whatever your blue is that you've chosen. 1, 2, 3 greens. Then you have your third primary, yellow. And then 1, 2, 3 oranges. And you can actually make something similar to this color wheel. If you make your swatches big enough, you can cut them out after the fact. You can pick out the colors that really fit into those 3 spots of 3 in between, right? So here's yellow, we have a light yellowish orange, kind of a pure orange, and then we have a reddish orange here, and then it moves to red. And it's much easier if you just let yourself mix a whole bunch of colors, then chop them up, and then carefully arrange them in that color wheel formation. So there's a little extra hack for you. One more thing I'm going to say before I start demonstrating is there are literally actually thousands of colors that are hiding in there. You can do a very beautiful painting with just one red, one yellow, and one blue. This painting only had those 3 colors. And this painting leans very much towards blue, but if you mix all 3 together, then you get all sorts of interesting neutrals, which really start feeling like what colors that you actually see in real life. Most of the world is not just bright primaries and secondary colors. So, cool. I am going to start this demonstration. Find my paper I was going to do it on. There it is. So you can go ahead and follow along with me. I'm going to keep using the same brush I've been using all along. This is a number 10 round by Princeton. They call this Aqua Elite. And this is my my dirty water here and my clean water here, continuing with that technique. And so now I need to choose which red, which yellow, and which blue I'm going to use. So I think I'm going to let's continue with phthalo. There's phthalo blue. And I'm going to use this yellow right here, which is a warmish yellow. It has a little bit of red in it, but I find that it'll still probably look pretty good. And I'm going to do alizarin crimson this time. So this is a bluish red, and I got these wet before I turned on the camera, so they're kind of soft and juicy and easy to apply and very concentrated. So I'm going to put alizarin crimson up here. There's a little bit of yellow in alizarin crimson. It's not going to be as pure of a purple as when I use the permanent carmine. So this is about an inch size square. And I'm going to put one down here as well. It's going to be a red on each end, a yellow on each end, and a blue on each end. And I'll mix any extras on this side. So now I'm going to mix a yellow, just getting it nice and wet. And so this, I'm going to mix orange, going to start with red, going to end with yellow. Excuse me if I'm off camera. See what I'm doing. And as always, I can see the texture of the paper through the paint. Now, I'm not going to do yellow here because I'm already going to get orange here. I'm going to put blue here so I can get purples in between these two. I'm going to put yellow over here, and I'll have my greens on the left. So now all I have to do is put in my blue, and I was going to do phthalo. We'll see what kind of purple we get with phthalo and alizarin crimson. I don't know. It could be good. Sometimes phthalo can make an okay purple. Alizarin crimson can make a good purple. But they both contain a little bit of yellow, so it'll be a bit of a surprise. We'll see how good it is. It might be good, might be awful. This is all about discovering and exploring. So there we go. I'm going to have all my greens here, my purples here, and my oranges here. Now, doing this exercise, one thing that is good to keep in mind is that phthalo blue, like I said, is a very intense blue. It's very dark, tends to go everywhere. It's a staining color. Yellow tends to be easily contaminated. It's easy to accidentally get other colors in yellow, and it's hard to clean out later. Although I'm definitely known for not caring sometimes, but it's better to just, you know, try and keep your yellow clean more than maybe the other colors. And getting an extra brush out. So this is going to be my yellow brush. I'm dedicating a brush to yellow so I don't contaminate it. So I will often start with yellow and then add other colors later. It takes much less yellow, or excuse me, much less of the dark colors and much more yellow to make a very pale yellowish color. So, a little quick demo on how I clean my palette. Just simple, wipe it off with some tissue or a rag, whatever you have. Try and get it mostly clean, especially with these pale yellowish colors. Oh, okay. So this is my technique that I like to use. I can add a little more water if I want to. This is my clean water here. I'm gonna add a few more drops into my yellow. And I'm gonna put yellow here on my palette. And with my second brush, I'm going to start with my oranges. I have another brush. This is going to be my red brush, and I'm going to mix them up pretty quick. But when I first start out, I use 2 brushes. So I'm just going to take them. This is my yellow brush. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of that red and mix it in there. Whoop. So it kind of ran along the side. So I have a very, very light yellowy orange color here. I want to see how many different colors can I get between red and yellow. So now I'm just mixing in a little bit more of that red. And now I'm getting a slightly deeper color, more orange, less yellow. And so on and so forth. I just keep going back and forth, adding more and more red to that yellow, making deeper oranges, and I can make more colors on the side over here if I exceed these spaces. These are looking a little bit too similar. Let's bring it up. Let's make it more red, deeper orange. We're getting well into the orange zone here. I'm mixing all the red in with all that yellow. Let's see what that looks like. Very subtle changes. There's, my palette was not perfectly clean. Real life experience. Here we go. So let's do this again. I'm going to put more that yellow in, drops of yellow. And maybe I switch to my red brush. Let's see what happens if I use my red brush. Oh boy. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room. That's probably about as red as I want to go. Wasn't sure. Now I'm going to add that yellow in with the red. What's that look like? So I'm making little baby steps. You just kind of go back and forth. Let's see. Gone back to my yellow brush. What's that look like? Have I closed the gap? I think I've closed the gap. That looks close enough between these two. So there we go. We've got lots of oranges in between these two, and I can tell that there's a little bit of a rusty quality to it because there is blue in this red. But it's still a really nice orange. Anyone who looks at it would go, that is orange. It's not brown, it's orange. So that's really nice. Like I said, orange seems to be the least problematic. Rinsing out both of these brushes in my dirty water. Tap, 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 hitting the bottom of the container. Try not to get my paper wet if I can help it. Oops, sorry for my arm in the way. But that's what I'm doing. And now I'm going to start with my blue. Looks like a little drop of water up there. It's okay. But I could cut these up. I could choose 3, like maybe this one and maybe that one if it didn't have a little drop on it. And I would have 3 colors, 3 oranges between yellow and red. So these two, those are pretty close in value. By value, I mean how light or how dark a color is. I'm going to clean out this little spot here on my palette with my paper towel. And I'll do some water drops. And over here, water drops. Touching my brush in the red. By now you should have the hang of this a little bit, but I'm still showing you I'm putting more drops. I want these colors to be very intense, so I'm just putting the drops of water. I'm just dissolving the paint directly in the palette and then lifting it up using my brush like a sponge. I'm doing a lot of red this time. And then blue, and I'm using a smaller brush for the blue. Oops, not yellow, blue. Blue. There it is. I have lots of blue. This is a very intense blue. We'll see how it competes with the red. So I think I'm suspecting that the blue is more intense than the red, so I'm just, let's see, this is my red brush. I'm going to touch a little bit of blue to the red. Wow. Boy. There was red on this brush. There was no blue on this brush. And already we've entered the purple zone. I'm going to put this in the middle. Just that little teeny tiny bit of blue. It's more red than blue. See, this is the interesting experiment part of this. I'm going to rinse my brush out. I'm going to add a bunch of red. Let's see if I can get some lighter colors. So, you know, you may not be able to get these in perfect order if you have this kind of experience. Let's see. This blue, phthalo blue, man, takes over the world. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this color that I mixed, this reddish purple, and I'm going to mix it in with that red and go, can we go redder? Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see if I can get in between these two some more. This is maybe, can I get, oh wow. My palette is too small. So we're getting more purple. Can we go? Yeah, this is pretty close to that last one. So we've lost the straight line. Usually I use a palette that's much bigger, but you know, a lot of you guys are probably using a palette this small. You can use a plastic plate or even a ceramic plate. You don't have to use the palette that comes with the box. This is, ooh, getting close to black. Very deep purpley black color. That's pretty. So yeah, discoveries, adventure, excitement. What happens if I really go heavy into the blue? So it does make a purple. It's not a brown, but it's a very plummy, neutrally kind of purple. I'm wondering if that's enough. Have we covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? We got about 7 in there. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to stop with that. Not a real straight line, but even with all my practice, you still get surprises when you're trying to mix colors together. So yeah, phthalo blue is the champion. Takes very little phthalo blue to make a color bluish. So I'm going to briefly address how close to black these two are. They're not quite black, but black is mostly blue. Black is not a perfectly even combination of red, yellow, and blue. It is mostly blue with a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow. And brown is if you added more red and yellow, then you end up with brown. All right, well, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen between these two. I think I actually did this technique in my last video. What happens if you mix phthalo blue? I'm going to move my water over here so I'm not blocking you with my arm. My idea was that I would make them visible, but I'm giving up on that idea. All right, so I've cleaned my palette off again. Managed to keep my colors fairly clean. I'm going to put a bunch of water in with the yellow and tiny bit in that phthalo blue again. I'm going to rinse my brush out clean water. I'm going to move a bunch of this yellow up here again. Lots and lots of yellow. Just a tiny bit of blue. Because we know what's going to happen. Very strong dark blue, kind of wimpy in comparison yellow. Yeah, there it is. We've got some very, very light green. Let's put some very light green. I mean, it changes dramatically, very quickly. Okay, just a little bit more of that blue, just a tiny bit going into that green. Going in there. A little bit deeper. I suspect we'll get a pretty brilliant green out of this. There's definitely some red in this yellow, but still. See how quickly it changes. Even more dramatically than, you know, these were much more subtle. Over here, the changes are much faster. Oh boy, we've entered full green very quickly. And I was talking about how Emerald Green by White Knights and Viridian Green by Cotman are basically this combination. I'm taking all the blue and still leaving out most of that yellow and getting a very full, deep green. Takes very little blue at all. And this is not true for all blues. This is the case with this blue in particular, phthalo blue. It's a little bit too much water in there, but you can see that this is mostly blue. A lot. So yeah, there's some mad scientist going on here. So I'm getting into the deep. I'm not so shy about the yellow anymore. We're doing deep greens. I'm going to make this one deeper. More blue. Going full on teal. Oh, that's pretty. I like that one. More. Yeah, I like these teal colors. More. We're entering full blue land. Just going to stir it around the last bit of blue with the yellow on my brush. That's probably good enough. So you can see, because these are so different, you get a lot of colors in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 colors in between. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but a lot of these look the same. So the more different the colors are in value, the more steps you can get in between those two colors. So that's my exercise, mixing secondary colors, mixing green, purple, and orange from red, yellow, and blue. And like I said, you can try any combination of red, any red, any yellow, any blue, just to see what happens, right? It would be very, very different if I used cerulean blue, which has some white in it. you'll end up with some kind of muddy pastel colors. Or if you used opera rose or a hot pink, you know, what would happen then? You know, if it had white in it, it would be muddy. If it was a really pure color that didn't have any white, then it might be very brilliant. You might get some nice purples. It's all an experiment, and we're getting familiar with our palette. What is possible? I mean, we have all these colors, and every combination of colors, you know, you're going to get something new. But it's nice to limit yourself to just two, because if you are painting a picture of some leaves and you use phthalo blue and this yellow, cadmium yellow, and nothing else, and you run out of the green that you're using, you know you can mix that green again, because it's only 2 ingredients. You can get there. It's hiding in there somewhere. Whereas if you mix 2 different blues and 2 different yellows and a little bit of red to dull it down or whatever, then you're dealing with 5 different colors. It's going to be much harder to mix that very particular color a second time. Also good to take notes when you're mixing colors. I'm going to write down, you know, this is alizarin crimson. I can use this as a reference later on. I want to mix that orange again. How did I get that orange? I used alizarin crimson and cadmium yellow. So this is for the future as well. All right, I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.